welcome everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. Our panel, who I'll let introduce themselves very shortly, will be delving into some of the biggest challenges facing leaders in today's chemical industry, how they plan to navigate these hurdles, and they'll be sharing some valuable advice for leaders and aspiring leaders across the sector. Now, we'll have some time towards the end of the webinar to put some audience questions to our panel, so please do use the chat function to submit any questions throughout the various topics discussed. Now, for those who do not know me or Beaumont Bailey, we are an executive search and leadership consultancy specializing in building the leadership teams of tomorrow for some of the world's largest industrial and manufacturing organizations. My name is Matt Harmon, and I lead the chemicals practice here at Beaumont Bailey, where I support leaders from across the globe with their executive hiring strategies. Now, we only have 1 hour to discuss a range of topics and hear from our panel of experts, who I'll let introduce themselves to you. As each of our panel introduces themselves, they'll also share one piece of advice for leaders in the chemical industry in 2024. So Vincent, if you would like to kick us off, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Vincent Allais. I'm speaking from Paris, France. I've been working in the paint industry for the last 25 years. I'm expert in aviation, automotive, industry, and defense. I have also an international experience being based in Dubai for a couple of years, and I'm very enthusiastic of being part of this webinar. So talking about leadership, I truly believe that innovation, sustainability and cross-cooperation are the key success factors for companies willing to be different and successful in the market. Innovation, by experience, I see that there must be a strategic and shared vision from the management to lead people through fascinating approach of the technology developed by the company. I know the French oil and lubricant company called Nico. They recommend to their employees when they introduce themselves, do not say we sell oil for engines of aircraft, but say we make people fly safely thanks to good oil. Talking about sustainability, by experience, again, I believe that every leader must be able to reinvent his own economy. How do I make my job compliant with environmental concerns? At Sherwin-Williams, for example, they are able to recycle plastic bottles into powder coating for industry. Kansai Helios, they reduce VOC with new generation of single-layer coating. Mader, they are replacing chrome plating by one-layer waterborne paint system for automotive. Mankiewicz is developing a zero VOC paint system, and Corso Magenta is transforming liquid paint into patches to repair paint defects on aircraft. Talking about co-construction, I think that leaders should learn more how to hunt as a pack. I believe that cross-company cooperation guide to more competitive approach in the market. Don't just do what you used to do. PPG Aerospace in the past has been successfully able to introduce package offer for refurbishment of aircraft. Military paint supplier, they are dealing on stealth technology in cooperation with Ministry of Defense and Optronic Industry. BASF and Lufthansa, they are working together on shark skin to reduce fuel consumption. AkzoNobel is also introducing a new concept of predictive maintenance in aviation. So this is what I would recommend: innovation, sustainability, and co-construction.
Thank you, Vincent. Carsten?
Thank you very much for the invitation, first of all. So my name is Carsten Bockmühl. I'm 30 years in business, experience in numerous industries such as banking, defense, finally chemical industry. And I'm mainly focused on finance, project management, and marketing and sales. I absolutely agree with Vincent. Think out of the box, be innovative. And this is not for chemical industry alone, it's for everyone. Despite or because of any challenges, there are so many chances you can pick up when you are brave enough. So in a very short term.
Perfect. Thank you. Silvio?
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting. I'm Silvio Torres. I'm living in Brazil, and I work more than 30 years in the coatings industry in Latin America. And for me, really, the chemical industry requires navigating a very complex, huge, and fascinating challenge. You need to look for regulatory, compliance, environment, sustainability, technological innovation, while you maintain the profitability and safety first, okay? And the leaders need not only manage their things in the company, they need to inspire and drive the change goes beyond on their organization in order, I say, to lead their company in the right way.
Cool. Thank you. Tushar.
Firstly, thanks for this invitation. While I agree with what has been said, so first let me introduce myself. So I'm almost with 25 years of work experience. Currently, I am a global HR head for one of the chemical food color manufacturing company based out of India. I take care of global role of leading the entire global workforce. Prior to this, I worked across various sectors, including pharmaceuticals, engineering, automotive. So it has been quite a diverse experience, and for last couple of years has been into chemical and pharmaceuticals. Now, when I talk about the piece of advice for 2024, we all know the headwinds are very strong. Global situations are very dynamic, but 2-3 areas where I feel chemical industry in particular leaders should focus on in terms of accelerating the adoption of digital and artificial intelligence, because that's something which we know is an era where every industry cuts across. But my perspective, when I look back, I think this is an area where we have done enough, but I think we need to increase the acceleration is something which is very important for us to get. 2 is we are going to face a problem of a skilled worker shortage. Every industry has its challenges. The way when I look at some of those industry reports and research reports, it talks about there is going to be more shortage in the next coming years because of various reasons. So specifically, the STEM courses, the way the influx of the fresh talent coming into the industry is very less. So we'll have to face with the skilled manpower shortage. So that also leaves an area of concern, but at the same time, I look at an area of opportunity to reskill. Third, I think we have to reimagine the talent paths or the career paths, because I could see people have been working in the industry for quite long. We need to really put an innovation on this aspect of how we can reimagine the various career paths where we can go, so that within the available talent, we can really work on it. So these are a couple of challenges which I feel as an industry in particular we should focus.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tushar. And finally, Robin.
Thank you, Matt, for inviting me to join, and apologize for that delay. I've been fortunate to have been working with Bowman Bailey for over 4 years now. Leaders from the C-suite, HR leaders, board members, and the boards working through effectiveness and issues at hand, founders, helping them with their transitions to the CEO role, all the leadership development aspects, from leadership integration, from executive coaching, psychometric assessments, high potential identification and development, HR strategy, and the like. So I've been very fortunate to work with many of our leaders that are working with Bowman Bailey, but external to that, as well as some of the large organizations globally, in Fortune 500. And in my previous roles, before Bowman Bailey, I was fortunate to be in some senior level executive HR roles at PepsiCo, S&P Global, and Avon Products. So that's a little bit about my background and a little bit of advice when it comes to looking at the future, the next 12 to 24 months. We are in unprecedented times. As we all know, there's so many significant issues facing us globally, not just the chemical industry, but in the chemical industry, you've got environmental regulations, you've got health and safety issues, you have supply chain disruptions, you have all this change and transformation happening on the digital front, the need for more innovation and research and development. Of course, that global economic environment and uncertainty in itself is quite daunting, right? So as we look at ourselves and our development and what we need to do to make sure as leaders, we're visionary, we're agile, we're collaborative. we're able to embrace the change and the innovation. We have to think about our skills and how we need to make sure we're constantly developing them and pushing them forward. And there's a few skills, and I was listening to the folks earlier, Vincent, Carsten, Silvio, and Tushar. Adaptability is critical. Flexibility and adjusting to the strategies and the operations that are facing us each and every day are going to be crucial. We need to think about the innovation and the creativity, and how do we as leaders foster, the issues with the environment that empowers employees to think creatively within their organization and experiment with new ideas. We need to be able to allow that to happen. We need to constantly think through and focus on ethical leadership. That's becoming more and more of a focus for all leaders. They need to prioritize the ethical decision-making and corporate social responsibility and sustainability issues to ensure that the long-term success and reputation of their organization is sustained and maintained and relevant and prevalent out in the environment, in the marketplace. And then looking a little bit deeper into yourself, your resiliency and your persistence, maintaining that positive attitude at work and for those around them, staying focused on the long-term objectives as opposed to getting sideswiped with things that are hurling at us each and every day. You need to persevere through those setbacks that are happening, and think about ways to be and continue to be successful in navigating that road ahead, because it's coming at us and it comes fast and furious.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you all for the introductions. So it's clear that leaders in today's world really face a plethora of challenges, from hiring the right talent through to navigating geopolitical turmoil. Good leadership really requires that resilience and adaptability, as many people mentioned. So I'd be interested to hear from you the biggest challenge that you may face over the next 12 months, and perhaps how you plan on tackling that. Vincent, perhaps you could kick us off with this.
Yeah, for sure. By experience, I believe that the strategic approach of leadership in general must be around 3 pillars: being good, being visible, and being replaceable. I will try to explain. The first pillar: how do I lead my people to be, and people and team to be good? Often the first time is the construction or the reconstruction of the team, which means that in order to federate, the leader must share and explain a clear vision of the project and which will be the steps to reach the goal. The second point is to train the people to create autonomy and team spirit around innovative project. And third could be to involve every single person in a project, whatever the position of the person is, in a participative management approach. The second pillar: how do I make my people be visible in the organization and at customers? And that's very important. Being visible in the organization, first could be a real team building event, could be a good opportunity to build a story. The second could be to share individual or team success stories at different levels, or with other business units, and in particular with the top management. And a third example could be to implement as well a culture of feedback. How to make visible the people at customer. As an example, as I always say to my technicians when they go on site for line trial, for example, at customer, I tell them, you must not only stay in the paint spray booth. I explain them that they are at that time the ambassador of the company, so they must not hesitate to have a quick walk around at purchasing or logistic or management to say, hi, hello, you can feel safe. We are here. The best company is here to support you. The third pillar is how do I make my people be replaceable? And this point is sometimes the most difficult for the people to understand. This is, of course, not being useless, but this is the fact that if I want to promote you, then the job you did must go on, or the fact that in case you are sick or out of work, then the job can go on, as well as there is a backup organization in place. So as a conclusion, I would say the focus for me would be to make the people be good, visible, and replaceable.
Thank you, Vincent. Carsten.
Yes, my focus is a bit different. Today's industrial and economic environment is the most challenging I've ever experienced. European markets are suffering from extremely high energy costs and lack of qualified and affordable people in the companies, specialists. We are facing high inflation and a lot of bureaucracy. International competitors are increasingly benefiting from the political support in their countries that makes, at the end, a lot of influence of the production costs. I love competition, but under fair conditions. In my view and in my industry, there are three possible solutions, in my view. Focus the production and services on the best possible quality. That enable the customer to accept higher prices. Because when you're producing in Europe, you are the most expensive. Second, on the other hand, produce as effectively as possible and get the products onto the markets. You have to be visible, I agree. But not only in the company, worldwide. So you have to spread out. A high proportion of automation, if possible, must be implemented. And lastly, and this is a very, really difficult decision to make, move your production in other countries.
Wonderful. Thank you, Carsten. Silvio, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Latin America always face problems and difficulties, different a little bit from Europe. That is facing now the huge problems. And based on that, we create a spirit where we say we can always overcome difficulties. Okay, with my team, I used to work and build our strategy together, because if the team is part of the solution, of course, the success will be more easy for the team. And they need to be part, they have ownership, they have to be, I say, proud to be part of this team. Not only give the solution today, no, do that or do this. We plan together, we have a good partnership with customers, we define where we go, how much we sell, or the market will go. But the fundamental for me is that all the team must be part of in order to build this strategy, because only to give the receipt to them will be difficult to implement.
Thank you, Silvio. Tushar.
So the challenges which I see is there will be some common challenges. What I see specifically for next 12 to 18 years, because we have seen the volatility in the price, specifically in the industry where I represent, which makes synthetic food colors and natural food colors. So there is a lot of price volatility of the raw material, and the supply chains also are being erratic. So somewhere one of the challenge we are facing, or rather we are gearing up, is how do we conserve cash? So more of a cash management and more emphasis, I see this has to be on the spend management. So there are a lot of opportunities which we can look at in terms of cost reengineering, and some of the fellow panelists talked about sustainability, energy cost, and maybe look at how to be more cost effective. I think all that's very important. So we have to be judicious in spending wherever, and look at opportunities where we can save some of those costs, specifically in operations. And that's what I mentioned in the beginning, that adaptation of digital parts, specifically in the maintenance and operation costs, which is where I feel coming together and save some of those costs will help in terms of generating more, I would say, cash disposable to spend on this. So I think this is where the short-term challenge which I see is how we can conserve cash, how can be efficient in spend management and spend where necessary, and improve the operation costs are some of those challenges where we can really focus.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tushar. And Robin, what do you think? We've had some good insights from across the industry and in general from Carsten, Tushar, Silvio, and Vincent there. What insight can you share from maybe something they've picked up on or that you've experienced in the past that could be relevant for it?
Right. And as leaders, we need to dig down and dig deep and constantly change our hats as well as the levers for our skills and develop them or just pull on them at certain times, just dependent upon what organizations are dealing with and what you are facing as a leader. On the financial volatility side, the talent side, do we have the right people within the organization? Do we need to develop more skills and so on? And when I think about those situations and that we're dealing with and listening to our leaders here, a couple of things, that strategic vision, making sure we've honed that strategic vision and that we're being able to communicate that vision and stay with it and stick to that roadmap is going to be critical, but also have the ability to adapt and be agile when necessary. The other is the communication of the strategic vision, being an effective communicator, thinking about and being fully transparent with your team members, with the organization, with those stakeholders that are most critical to the success of your organization, even your customers, on what's happening. The most effective leaders I found are those that are emotionally intelligent and that understand themselves and their managing style and how it affects others. Those individuals that have a high emotional intelligence can inspire confidence and build and keep building that resilience within themselves and their teams. And they foster that positive organizational culture, which is so important when things aren't going so well, right? And on the other side, I think that we constantly reflect upon how well we're doing or those areas of opportunity and reset the bar on what's necessary at the time.
Cool. Thanks, Robin. Yeah, thanks for everyone there. Some really interesting insights. And I know right at the first topic at the beginning, we spoke about current leaders. We also have a number of aspiring leaders on this call and in our wider network here at Beaumont Bailey. So I'd like to ask the panel to think of a time in their career that really defined them as a leader, and then perhaps how that moment then had an impact on their journey to becoming the leader that they are today. Let's stick with the same running order. Vincent, kick us off.
Okay, so personally, as a person, I like to solve problems, and when the situation is critical, that gives me a fantastic energy to make it be on track. I like the sentence of Mark Twain, which is, they did not know it was impossible, so finally they did it. And from my personal experience, it is clear that people must think out of the box as well. I like also the slogan of Russell Crowe in the movie Gladiator, win the crowd. That means to federate people around the project. There is no individual success without team success. To be more personal, I will share with you a specific moment in my life. 10 years ago, I had a very terrible bike accident and I should have died. Fortunately, that was not time for me to die. Nevertheless, I had to stay in bed for 6 months in a box, as all my bones were broken and I had to relearn how to walk. But anyway, I'm completely recovered now, I think. But what I learned from the accident is two key points. The company I was running at that time as managing director has been successfully be able to continue to grow without me, because the management I had implemented at that time was the right one. And the second point I've learned is that life offered me a second chance. Then this is also what I implement with my people and my team. As a conclusion, I would say successful management for me is always a matter of good communication and trust.
Cool. Thank you, Vincent. And good to hear that you're fully, well, nearly fully back on the mend now. Carsten.
I think the COVID pandemic was a good example, because no one has experience with all the environment impact we faced. So all decision makers were asked to be maximum flexible. That was the most important thing. So every morning, everyone sat together in a team and we made decisions day by day. which is for a long-term planning company a nightmare. But we faced all the problems. We could work, we could produce, we could sell, and even the roles in the management were different. So me as a sales guy, I was part of production planning because I had to make the decisions who get a delivery and who doesn't. So that was a very critical time, and we learned a lot. And communication, as Vincent said, is mandatory. So we communicated a lot.
Yeah, I mean, to echo that, it's clearly such a change in the industry, and I think everything you thought you knew up until that point probably wasn't relevant in that time. So yeah, some really interesting thoughts there. Silvio, how about you?
Yeah, same as Vincent, I love to work in a team. And I discover since I'm starting, for me, it was, I say, to see the people together, to work together. When the people respect you by your attitude and you respect your team. And for me, is it's fascinating work with the group and the team and make the things happen together always, because we can do nothing alone, only with the team. As Carsten mentioned, during the pandemic, very good example that we must create another dynamic, trying to work together and continue to do that. And for me, teamwork is fantastic.
Great, thank you. Tushar.
Yeah, so I will also talk about one or two moments which define me as a leader. So one, obviously, echoing the same thing which Carsten told and Silvio talk about, is pandemic has really tested our leadership and as said decision making. So during pandemic specifically, the industry which I was representing was to ensure how do you maintain business continuity at the same time taking people along. So a lot of people to be taken through curbing anxieties, taking care of them, engaging them. That's really put a lot of pressure, and at the same time, it created a force that we need to really lead, and that's where all the leadership team in the organization which I represented had to really ensure that how we infuse that level of enthusiasm to the team, and we really worked and we thanked each other. So that's why it's very used to follow something which we do now. It has become a ritual, is to have a gratitude for whatever you have and whatever you can do. So this is what this defines, has ingrained more in terms of be happy, thank, and have that power of gratitude works. Second example, which has been defining me in managing a couple of transitions. So there were two aspects of transition. So one transition when I was leading a team where we bought over a business and integrating that business within to the current business. So the people side of it, the new set of people to come, they were comfortable in what they used to do in the past, and how do they embrace the new culture? So how do you understand them? How do you lead them? At the same time, making them comfortable. So this was one example. Total opposite example was at one time, the business which I was in was getting sold off. And the entire team was not very clear that what happens to next for us. So while you do this, still you have to take people along with you, because that's where the future was. And again, to mention business continuity and ensure people give their best. So as a leader, these are the different situations. So when I say the situational leadership comes into place, and it has helped me in terms of defining some moments. So as situation demands, leader has to really adapt, adaptable, be flexible, be agile, and ensure that you take a team along with you. So this has been some of those defining moments which has really helped me in shaping up my leadership style.
Right, thank you, Tushar. And Robin, how about you?
I think of one defining moment, role, situation. Always, I revert back to this one when I was at PepsiCo. They have a very unique style of building their leaders. They have a building of future leaders philosophy, specifically moving individuals from one role to another every 2 to 3 years. And the intent is to get cross-functional experiences, broaden the capabilities with, and moving people out of their wheelhouse, out of their comfort zone, to get that that exponential individual growth through, and really see how you can manage and grow and lead through some of that change and that discomfort, so to speak. And at this time, I was in a role, I was leading a global IT recruiting initiative, and then tapped on the shoulder to go and move out of that role, which I was very comfortable and doing very well in, and had to go into something I knew nothing about. And that was a global implementation for all the HR platforms. I didn't know anything about the background or the back end of any of these systems and how they needed to connect, and what was necessary and how big this project was. So I was kind of thrown onto this team. I had a team that I had to lead and as well as drive this whole initiative. And it was a global initiative. We had 180,000 employees around the world. So not only did we have to roll it out, we had to implement throughout all the different businesses, because PepsiCo has a couple of businesses underneath its umbrella. So it was quite the challenge, but what it taught me was, how to be bold, and in particular, how to be humble. It taught me to really think about what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, but more importantly, to ask questions and also ask for feedback all the time. Lean on my team, trust my team that they know what they're doing and that they're doing it well, and provide them with support all the time. I had to reach out to some unlikely individuals that I wouldn't have reached out to or gotten to know ever. So it broke down that barrier for me and fear of, reaching across the aisle or reaching across a function, and asking for support. So it was quite an experience, and, has stayed with me for 15 years.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Robin. And that leads us nicely, actually. So we've had a few questions come through that I'd like to put to the panel, if that's okay. One of which has kind of been half answered by a few of you, so it'd be good to get a bit more insight. So someone's put, in today's world, transformation and change is constant. How do leaders make sure that they're always bringing their people with them on the change journey? Who would like to volunteer to share some insight on that?
Be glad to start. Bringing people through the transformation and the change journey is all around communication and making sure that everything is being communicated in a very effective and transparent way. Transparency is also important. Making sure everyone is aware of what's necessary and what's needed at the time, and having that game plan of when you're making big change. I've seen many clients and teams not be as successful as they should or need to be because they haven't kept people in the loop. They haven't defined who the stakeholders are, kept them in the loop, gotten them to be supportive of their initiative, and brought them along that journey as well.
Thank you. Anyone else have any insight to that question about how they're always making sure they're bringing their people with them on that journey of transformation and change?
Yeah, in a previous company, there was a philosophy which was very simple around the 5 F. And one of the 5 F is flexible. And this is something that I really believe is important. There must be a clear vision, a strategy, the resources, and so, but we must not stick to something if something is not anymore adapted to the situation. This is the flexibility that company must have, and this is a mindset that first the leaders must have, and that they must transfer and explain to their team. Being flexible, being adaptable, that's a good way, as Robin said, through a clear communication. So this F of flexible.
Thank you, Vincent. Wonderful. I think we'll have time for one more question, actually. So we've got on here, when hiring future leaders at mid to senior level, what specific qualities do you look for in candidates to determine their future potential? So I guess this is really targeted at those future leaders. You know, when you're bringing people into the organization at this seniority, what are you looking for in them that may help you determine, you know, what they might bring to the company in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years?
So maybe I'd like to share some of the examples what we look. So hiring, as you know, is a very critical decision. So apart from the functional skills, there's also an aspect which in one of my organizations, when we should typically use this as a determination of potential and classify talent into the various talent classification, was based on a framework which is to really measure the agility part of it. So there were 4 dimensions of agility. It's again, and that's all relevant. So what we spoke in the last 45 minutes, it talks about that agility. So there's how mentally you are agile in terms of how you can adapt, how you are agile in terms of developing, getting results, how you are agile in terms of people agility. So how do you really get along with people? And finally, it's a change agility, how fast you adapt on change. So this was, again, a very beautiful framework through which pointers, when we used to sit for any talent review discussions, we used to really have some pointers to really see how an individual is demonstrating various aspects of this agility. And if it has been in a trait or something which is helping, that was having a most important parameters on which is to classify the talent. Obviously, the sustained performance over a period of time also been considered, but this is where. And I think every organization has this framework. But in today's era, I think when you talk of potential, which is potential is for future. So from a current stage to future stage, if I have to move, I need to really have some of those qualities which can help me that house. And flexibility is something we spoke as one of the 5F framework. So I agree with it. Now, flexibility is one. I think today we talk about a very volatile word, very uncertain word, very complex word, and a very ambiguous word. So what helps us to move further is agility. And that's where has to be one, I believe, an important parameter to really demonstrate or look at, determine potential for future leaders.
Thank you, Tushar. Silvio, yes.
Yeah, one thing for me is important when hire people. For me, of course, I have a lot of skills, but for me, it's more important is character. Okay, because we can learn technical things, you can learn everything, but this you can learn, or you have, or you don't have. And for me, is the key when you look for the new candidate, of course, a new position, something for me is very important because this we cannot learn.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Silvio. There's a couple of questions come through around something we just touched upon around transformation and innovative and how you measure that. So I'll just pick one to ask for this moment. So the question is, how are you adapting your workforce and organizational culture to support transformation and innovation? And to tie into that, how are you measuring the success of the effectiveness of that transformation? Robin, perhaps you might have something there based off what you were talking about earlier on in the call.
Yeah, the measuring the transformation, it needs to make sure that we've set milestones for that transformation, that change, for that initiative. And measuring against those milestones is critical. And how, each, depending upon what that initiative or plan is, it needs to be appropriate to that. The constant transformation and making sure that people are evolving their skills and developing through it should be part of the leaders and the HR process throughout the year, constantly measuring how well we're doing, where our gaps are, what we need to develop. in some cases, it may be a buying situation of talent. It may be a development situation within the organization. We need to develop those skills, or even outsourcing, renting those skill sets. So making sure your organization's flexible, you as a leader are using all those types of resources. And again, the communication is transparent and that your milestones are measurable.
Thank you. Anyone else have any insight on that point?
Maybe I could add that everybody is afraid of change, and that's a natural behavior. And I think as a leader, the key point is to explain what will happen, and to also, when possible, to involve the people in the change themselves, so they can also give their idea. Maybe you will not keep the idea at the end, but by involving the people in the process of change, then they can feel safe, they can feel secure, they can be part of the change, and then that will reduce the stress of the change.
Great.
One extra addition from my side.
Yeah.
Ask for feedback. Ask everyone, are you happy with the transition? Are you happy with the milestones and with the progress? This is very important.
Great. Thank you, Carsten. Yeah, some really interesting insights there. Thank you for putting some questions in. So before we go, I'd just like to ask each of the panel to share one piece of advice for aspiring leaders in the chemical industry today. It doesn't have to be super detailed, but perhaps Vincent, again, you could kick us off with this.
Yeah, for sure. Couple of examples. One, I would be fascinated, be patient, and inspire people. Second, try and implement active listening. Third, I would say train the people to develop autonomy. Fourth, speak directly to the right person to solve the problem. Okay, there is the hierarchy, you have to follow the hierarchy. But if there is one person who is the key people to solve the problem, talk to the person directly. It will help to solve the problem. Fifth, learn about the reasons and the history behind what has made the success of the company, and tell the story again to secure the client and the people, because the people in front of you, they will change, but the history, the successful history of the company is still the same. So you have to re-explain the history. Six, I would say, don't forget to say thank you to the people. And maybe the last but not least, I would deeply recommend to read the book, The Art of War from Sun Tzu. And that's it from my side.
Perfect. We can put that in the group after. Great suggestion, Vincent. Carsten, how about you?
Yeah, most things were said. I think sharing is caring. So share your mind, share your thoughts to your colleagues, and bring them into discussions, even when they are not directly involved in a problem or in a progress. Sometimes a different meaning or different thought can help you to make your own decisions.
Wonderful. Silvio?
Yeah. For me, I think you need to care, respect, be transparent, support and challenge your team, and also be a reference as attitude. And no doubts, the result will come.
Tushar?
Yeah, my piece of advice would be, looking at all the challenges which this industry goes, would be three parts. So one is unlearn, because I guess this is where a lot of things which are becoming obsolete, and every business suffers it. But specifically in this industry, I guess it's very important to really unlearn some of the things which are not really relevant. You need to relearn. Obviously, once relearn, adapt digital technologies, adapt those mindsets of how you use artificial intelligence, and keep on learning. So it's learn, relearn, unlearn, learn, and relearn are the three aspects which I'll advise the readers to keep on doing, because the knowledge is getting very obsolete. And that's something which help them to really be put into a cutting edge and be ahead of the curve and navigate into all those challenges what we talked about. So this will be my piece of advice for the leaders.
Thank you, Tushar. And last but not least, Robin.
I encourage everyone to seek a mentor or mentors internally and externally to your organization. Find those individuals that you are, enamored with or want to emulate. Ask them to be your mentor, and find an individual externally to the organization that can be a mentor to give you different perspective of a different organization as well. When you do have that relationship with them, make sure you're open, make sure you're vulnerable, you're sharing what's going on with you and your development, and they can help supplement it. They'll be able to support you with that. And more importantly, be prepared when you're spending time with your mentor. Make sure that you're getting the most out of that relationship, coming to the table with your questions, with your insights, with your aspirations, as well as, those areas where you really need opportunity, because that will be the most successful mentoring situation.
Thanks, Robin. Well, thank you so much. There's lots to take away there, and hopefully that's all very useful for everybody watching. Now, a reminder that we will be sharing the recording of this webinar should you want to reference any of the points raised or perhaps share with colleagues. And our panelists are happy for you to connect directly in case you have any questions for them. But other than that, thank you so much for tuning in, and speak to everybody soon.